What's up, everyone? This is Alex Accetta, El Queso Grande of Invictus Pro Wrestling, and you're watching 3 Count Podcast.
Weighing in at an unbelievable weight that you might hate, but you can't even
Dang high
debate.
class, we find that drag ball that.
Now, by now, you know what this is. Actually, we should really change this up. So, you would normally know what this is because this is now entering 201. And if you're wondering why I sound a lot different, well, we're recording this on August 1st, and I have just been wrestling July 30th and 31st. And if I take too many bumps, my voice just gets destroyed. So, hi, welcome to now entering 201. I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. But like every good Sherpa, which by now you should be saying, it's never about me, it's about who's entering. So who's entering the ring today? You see the man, the myth, the legend himself. You've seen him on our debate show. You've seen him on Now Entering the Ring. You've seen him on our specials that we've dropped. It is Alex Accetta, El Grande, Queso Grande.
Queso Grande, the honcho in head.
Hey, I like it though. I like it. So how have you been, man?
Been good, man. Been busy. As I mentioned before we started rolling, I'm in the process of moving, so shoot life's been busy. A lot going on with Invictus as well. I mean, we're in a bit of a summer holiday, except like not really, because we got Let Them Fight coming up at the end of the end of this month. We had our no ring in the Bronx, our no ring show last month, so wasn't really quite the full break from wrestling that I was hoping it would be, but you know, wouldn't have it any other way.
You know, it's something that's like I think I'm gonna make that like a goal of mine, right? To just wrestle one match in a no ring, because if there's something that I definitely love, it's the idea that I can be in something like Def Jam's Fight for New York, and just the idea of people being around, and you have like, you know, two dudes and there's a big circle of people around you. I just feel like that would just be something that I would want to do and have so much fun with.
The atmosphere definitely evoked that, and a couple people brought it up, especially because we were in the Bronx, like,
Yeah.
you know, the grittiest borough, arguably. Yeah. I say that in the most loving way. But like the bumps that these guys were taking, and like just like getting up and like their backs are all scratched up and they got the like little chunks of gravel like in the cuts. It just looked so gross and undesirable. But props to them. It was a great time, and I appreciate them leaving it all not in the ring, because they weren't in the ring, but you know, leaving it all out for the fans.
Yeah, no, and that's definitely cool. It's a different aspect of like wrestling. I don't think a lot of people talk about is that you can pretty much have those kind of shows every once in a while, and people are going to come to them because, like you said, they just kind of give like that grittier kind of feel that like, hey, like here we are, like on ground level. So I like that, and I think it's cool, and it reminds me a lot of like Bloodsport, right? So with GCW's Bloodsport, you know, you get like this darker kind of feel for the ring, and it's cool. I like the aspect, and especially no ropes. Like it's just kind of like a hey, anything's gonna happen here.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, it's when the opportunity presented itself, that you know, we jumped at it. I've been a fan of, you know, Casanova Valentine shows that he does here in New York, the no ring death matches, and then you know, you got No Peace Underground out of Florida doing a very similar concept. We just, man, you know, like that's just this year has been our first year running monthly. So we've run every month with the exception of January, because we were supposed to run in January, but there was a snowstorm, made us push the date back. And you know, part of the thing is, you know, to keep the fans coming back, you got to just keep changing it up. You got to keep doing things different. So each of our shows that we've done this year has had a very different flavor to it. And you know, that the no ring event was just you know, taking that idea to its most extreme. You know, what can be more different than, you know, doing a wrestling show without a wrestling ring. Like that's we're going way into left field there. So
And no doubt. And it's cool because you did say like you guys have different themes for like everything. And so like at the end of the month you have Let Them Fight. You put out a massive card to include like Art of War. I'll put myself in that category. You have Faceless. You know, there's just a lot of like different aspects to what's going on with the show. And it's just cool that you're starting to see like the bigger show kind of get built up. You know, I know like I've been personally wanting to get involved with Invictus since it started 2 years ago, and like now that I got the opportunity, like I just think it's cool. So I guess for what I really want to know is when it comes to other people who are going out there, like what do you look for in those wrestlers that catch your eye that makes you want to bring them in?
um, it's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of things I look for because the thing is that particularly here in the Northeast, like East Coast area. I don't know if the DMV would be considered Northeast, but there's so many good wrestlers, and you can't book them all. It's impossible. So you, I think what it boils down to for me is first of all having, I'm pretty conservative when it comes to booking in the sense that I don't believe in just bringing in big names or big talents just for the sake of bringing them in and having them on the card. I think it's having a role for them to play, whether it's a one-off thing or bringing them in for a more long-term story. Finding something that they can contribute to the card besides just putting on a good match. Um, so that's one thing that I look for. I think I don't know if it was you that I spoke to about my kind of breakdown of like the three sort of aspects that I would look for in a potential wrestler, but I look at it in terms of the look, the charisma, and then the in ring, the work rate. And those are the three sort of like factors that I would break it down by. There's some people who really excel in one of those, and there's some people who are more, where it's more evenly distributed. Um, to come up with some more like notable examples, I would say somebody like, uh, Hulk Hogan, for example. Uh, Charisma was definitely there. He had that intensity with his promos. Um, his look was there. He had that trademark, appearance. He was great to sell action figures and merchandise and stuff. In ring work, could only do like 5 moves, but he made it work for him. You know, uh, he'd be an example of like something like that. Mitsuharu Misawa, because I'm a big fan of Japanese wrestling. You know, he's someone who he really excelled in the in ring aspect. Charisma. He didn't really he was a man of very few words. He didn't really talk a lot. Looks wise, he nothing about his appearance really stood out, but he wasn't the most chiseled athlete, but his work rate was so head and shoulders above everyone else. It didn't really matter. So looking at like people's strong points, their strong suits, and helping to play to those strengths and booking them in a way that can play to those strengths. Pretty much is what I look for in potential wrestlers, and above all else is work ethic. A big reason why what I tell people when people reach out to me and ask, what can I do to get on the show, is the first thing I always tell them is, we'll come and show face and help out at a show, because we always need to help. And for you to show up and actually show face and talk to me, then you become more than just one of the many messages that I get in my inbox. Now you're a name that I can put to the face, and I've talked to you, but moreover, it shows that you want this, that you're willing to work for it, and you're willing to put put in the extra miles to get it. And that, work ethic, more often than not, that willingness to go the extra mile in terms of helping out, translates to work rate as well in the ring.
Yeah, it's cool because like I know like when I jumped up and I saw and myself and Chaz, we came up the first time and we just like helped out with the ring. We just wanted to hang out and just chill with everybody and just talk to them. And then recently, I got to come up for the city tournament, and like that was so much fun. And all I really wanted to do, I should have came up earlier. I was just having some difficulties to get up quicker, but getting up and being able to sit down, just kind of cheer with the fans, and kind of be a plant, like that was fun too. Like I enjoyed like just sitting back and getting to enjoy the show, and then getting to like watch some wrestlers. I'm like, yeah, I definitely want to work that person. Definitely gonna want to get in the ring with that person and that person. So there was a lot of fun to like be attached to the tournament and just like enjoy everything that was going on in the building.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're someone in particular who, it was clear that that you had that work ethic and you had that drive, because you've come up and, it's no secret you live a good distance away from where we run our shows, in Jersey. So to see that commitment to coming up and helping out, especially when you weren't guaranteed a spot, was something that I kept in mind. Because, I'll be honest that, when you uh the first time, last spring when you came up, and helped out and you sent me your stuff, I could tell, like, there was definitely potential there, but I felt like in order for you to come up and, be booked and really put your best foot forward, you had to put in a little more practice and kind of find yourself a little bit more as a character. And that's something that in the time that's elapsed since then, I've noticed that shift, and I've noticed that you've kind of found yourself, and you've found Red Dog, and kind of, embodied what that is. So that's something that I noticed. So it's all about timing. It's a combination of, timing and that work ethic and passion and drive.
And I think that's something like people got to realize too, because like yeah, we've been chatting since May of 2021, something like that, June of 2021, and it's been a consistent process. But it's like one of those things that just because you, and that's something I think a lot of people need to understand too, is that just because you show up to a show and you help, you're not guaranteed a spot. Like just show up, have your best foot forward, enjoy what's going on, and then like just be be persistent. But at the same token, like don't be that guy that's like, well, they're not helping me out. Why do I want to show up to the show? Like just show up, be friendly, do what you got to do, and then who knows? One thing is going to lead to another. If it happens, if it doesn't, it doesn't happen. It doesn't mean that they don't like you. They probably appreciate the help that you're giving. It's just be there, be there, and just be helpful.
Yeah. And, it's particularly like, once a promotion's kind of established, it's more difficult to break in and get a spot on that promotion, because they have their core roster already established. They have their stories that they're telling and their guys that they've been built up. So the spots for a new face or somebody new to enter the picture are very are limited. So that's really the whole purpose of what Let Them Fight is all about. The show that we have coming up in August, it really stemmed from my frustration as a booker of just having all these really promising fresh talents who would come and help out at the shows and stuff, and just not having spots for all of them. So the idea came to me. I mean, we did the first one last July, but just to do a show solely dedicated to showcasing these rising stars, and seeing who connects with the crowd and who's able to really have an impact. And a lot of the people who made their in-ring debuts at the last Let Them Fight last year have since gone on to become regulars on our roster. Jay Bougie, JS Hawthorne, all those guys made their in-ring debuts at the show last year, and have since kind of worked their way up.
Yeah, it was definitely fun because I've actually worked JS Hawthorne, and I thought like he's very fun to be around. I just love his energy. And then Jay Bougie, he's actually been on our podcast before. We've actually had him on and I talked to him, and I know that he's worked Chaz, although Chaz won't want to talk about the results of that show. So, but it is cool. It is cool to see like someone present opportunities to younger talent, like help them and help them grow, and even give them critiques. Like I think that's one thing that's really cool is that I can come to you and you get to tell me things that are like I can improve on based on what you see from as a promoter point of view, and I think that's beneficial. Is like you know you can have friends, right? But more importantly, if you have people on your team who are helping you grow, like just listen to them and like be able to understand that they're critiquing you, but they're helping you get better in the business. And especially if you're on a promoter level, like these are things that are going to catch your eye. And I know, like when we talked uh, a few times, like that was the one thing that you kind of were always telling me was just like you got to get your reps in, you got to work on your character side of things, and kind of like understand who Red Dog is. And since then, like I just kind of took it and ran with it. So I guess where I want to come from with it is uh, knowing that I'm getting into my second or third year, I guess, what would be expectations if you didn't know somebody and they were telling you like, "Yeah, I've been there for 2 years." Like what's your kind of standard expectations of what you think that person's going to be at?
That's a good question. Yeah. So by the second or third year, like I said, I would expect you to have a pretty solid understanding of your character. I always say that you should be able to give your in showbiz what they call an elevator pitch. So basically, like 30 seconds or less. Who is Red Dog? Who is your character? Right. Nowadays, far too often, there's people where their gimmick is just that they're a wrestler. You know, and again, like there's sure there's a fan base, there's an audience for that. Um, but that's a very niche, the purist wrestling fans, the people that can look past, the lack of a character and just focus on someone's work rate. The majority of fans, particularly the casual fans or especially the younger fans, kids and stuff, they need to have a character that they can kind of gravitate towards and that they can easily pick out on a card or on a poster. So um, would expect you to have a very strong understanding of your character, and also you expect a certain when you talk to someone and they say, oh, it's your rookie year, you may be able or willing to overlook for lack of a better word, like a clunkiness to the in-ring work. There's certain, like with things like footwork and things like that, you can sort of overlook that, just because you're choosing to see the potential that the person has. But by the second or third year, you would hope as a promoter that people have mostly cleaned that up, and that's just something that comes from getting the reps in and muscle memory and things like that.
Okay, I mean that's cool, and I agree. Like,
Yeah.
because that's something I'm still improving on too. Like, I'm still working on is obviously like footwork. Uh, but yeah, I definitely think like having like kind of an idea of where you want your character to go. Like, you should just be like at least in that nucleus phase. Like, it's still kind of like expanding. Like, you're still adding stuff to it. I know for me, like when I got in, like I just assumed that your trainer, whoever was there, was like, this is your character. You do what you gotta do it this way. And it wasn't until like I was like 7 months in that I realized I was like, I don't have to be this dude. Like I can do kind of whatever I want. At the end of the day, like I'm an indie worker. And I remember like the first few months and first few matches I was working, like it was like this serious, like stoic kind of like military character. And I was like, there's like a million of these guys. And I was like, I'm definitely not that dude. It's
Yeah.
like and I even told my trainer, he was like, okay, well, if you think that you can do better with like the military thing, tell me what you would do. And I was like, we're super dark humor, and that's definitely where I want to be. And so I just like opened up on the comedy side of things, and then realized people were like, oh, you're like Deadpool. And I was like, yeah, I guess if you want to put it that way. And then I started like watching way too many Ryan Reynolds movies and realizing that my comedy is exactly like Ryan Reynolds' sarcastic humor.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also boils down to, and this isn't so much like something that should be restricted to being at a certain, like your first year, second year, third year, but this is more just the thing. You should be able to answer if a promoter or anyone really asks you, what makes you different from the next guy. Um, you should have an answer, sort of ready to go for that. To your point, like, the military, camo gear, those gimmicks, like you said, they are kind of a dime a dozen, especially on the indies. But to take that concept or some aspect of it and turn it on its head, and do something different with it, and subvert the audience's expectations, I think that's the sign of, you know, that's a sign that you have something with potential there.
Yeah, I definitely think that. I think because I forget who I was talking with, but we were talking about there's like six characters that you always find in any locker room, right? And one of them was like the wrestler, right? The underdog is another one. The cocky dude that's like, yeah, I'm the best ever. The mercenary or the military type guy.
Yeah,
Uh, like the super high flyer, and like a luchador. So you have like these six regular characters that are always going to be present on the show, and you're right, you have to make yourself different. I know, like, well, we're here at when I'm training and we have like promo day or character development day, like the one thing I ask guys like, who is such and such, and I always feel like I get like the same answers where it's like, I'm an assassin. Okay, well, there's like eight of those. What
yeah,
makes you different? Like, well, I was bullied in high school. Cool. We kind of have a direction, but what makes you different from that person? I was like,
they're all
you
coming
didn't
in with
have to
that
give
same
me.
entrance gimmick, like the black ski mask,
Yeah.
like the gloves, yeah, that whole thing. Yeah, I mean, they when I was in grad school, for creative writing, one of the things that would always come up in our seminars that the professors would always tell us is there's no such thing as an original idea. Um, it's all about how can you take, pre-existing ideas or these tropes, kind of what you were describing before, and take little elements of them and combine them or change them to make something that is unique and unprecedented. And I think nowhere is that more true than in wrestling.
Yeah.
Some of the most iconic workers of all time, borrowed heavily their personas. Look at, the Nature Boy Ric Flair just had his last match last night. Uh, you know, Nature Boy Buddy Rogers lifted heavily from that. Hulk Hogan, borrowing heavily from superstar Billy Graham. So, no such thing as an original idea in wrestling. But
No.
at the same time, it's all about how can you take those things, how can you take those existing ideas, change them, make them your own.
Yeah. And I love the idea of like spinning new things onto to who you are and what you do. Like I know like I've watched a couple like random ass movies and I'm like, oh, I kind of like this character. I was like, I might take like the code word that kind of like irritates them, that gets them upset, right? Like one of like the one thing I know a lot of people are gonna look at this now and they're gonna be like, oh, that's the word. So like for Red Dog, his like word that people say will be like chair force because he talks about being an Air Force veteran, so people know that he was in the Air Force, so they'll reference the chair force, and that's kind of like one thing that makes him tick. That's like, yo, all right, now it's time to whoop your ass because you're talking shit about my military branch. So
Yeah.
I think it's one thing. It's those little things because like now like I like diving into my character because like I was listening to Chris Van Vliet and he was talking about like asking better questions to get better answers. And one thing that I loved was I was like, all right, well, who is Red Dog, right? And then I had to establish who he was. And like, what makes Red Dog tick? And like, all right, here's these questions. And then like I started thinking about, I was like, why and how are those questions that dig and make you want to figure out what else is there? So why does Red Dog want to do these things? How come Red Dog does that? Why does Red Dog love this? Why does Red Dog like that? How come he doesn't like this if he likes that? Right. So it's this building this world of like an awesome character. And like you said, like pulling from different people to like understand like what makes that guy tick. And
Yeah.
it's a process. Like I'm still learning my own character, but
Yeah.
it's fun when you get to build it.
Yeah. And your character should always be evolving. I mean, look at Chris Jericho, right? Um, how many times he's reinvented himself over the years. And that's, one of the reasons why he's, goat status, as the kids would say. Uh, that's what it's all about, though. It's about that adaptability, and also, being able to implement feedback that you get, from both fellow, peers or mentors in the business, as well as fans. Um, Being able to come back through the curtain after a match and say, okay, what went the way I wanted it to go, what didn't connect, why didn't it connect, and things like that. That's something that I'm always doing as a promoter as well. Can't tell you how many things, if you look at our first show, 2 years ago, and the shows we do now, how much more tightly everything is run, just because we've learned from our mistakes. Um, you know, uh, Doing, like, instead of printing out run sheets, using a whiteboard instead, because we're always changing shit, right? The night of. So being able to just erase it and change it with marker, rather than, the run sheet looks like a freaking, everything's crossed out, there's arrows going everywhere, and stuff like that. It just becomes this illegible mess. So things like that.
I like that. I might have to just start doing that just randomly. Like just start like I'm gonna go buy a whiteboard just so I can start writing stuff on it. Like I think about that all the time. Like that would be something that would just help promoters out just in general. Just to show up with a right whiteboard and then be like, hey, I know that you have your card. You can write it here in case something happens and you can just change it.
Yeah. And then also keep the markers in your pocket. People are going to steal those markers.
Yes. Okay. I I love being that guy, but I also hate being that guy because like I'm the guy that's in my bag. Like I have a roll of tape, and so I know everybody's always looking for tape, whether it's white or black or blue or pink, right? For those who are wondering,
Yeah.
but I have tape all the time, and I have that, and I always someone always takes my rolls of tape, and I never get them back. Or I have sharpies. I have tons of sharpies, but I know I'm never getting them back, so I'm always replacing them.
I went to go change something at one of our shows earlier this year. I went to go change something on the whiteboard, and there were no markers there. And I, like, turned to the rest of the locker room, and I was like, did anyone take the markers that were here? And it's like, crickets. It's like, I'm a high school teacher, like, as my shoot job. I think we've talked about that, but it's like when I turn my side, my class, like, who threw that?
Right?
And it's just crickets. And I literally said to them, I was like, they're whiteboard markers. I was like, you can't use them to sign things. I was like, they have no use to you. I was like, so I'm just gonna leave, go back upstairs, and, like, I expect those markers to just make their way back up here. And then I did. Came back down later, and the markers were back where they belonged. And somebody probably felt very foolish, but I won't know who that is, and that's okay.
But it's like you got to think about these things, right? Like at the end of the day, and I hear this a lot, and I hear this from a lot of veterans, and I think about those, right? It says it in the name, professional wrestling. You are a professional. Like act like one. Either have the stuff or ask somebody else if you can borrow their stuff and then give it back. Like it just doesn't make sense. Like if you want to take my rolls of tape, fine, take the rolls of tape. I mean, I get upset. I can always buy more, but just I just know who I'm not gonna lend tape to next time. Like
Yep.
it's
Yep.
just a thing.
Yeah.
And- oh man, but it's funny because like I think about like the other side of things where you're talking about at least working on those reps and understanding like where footwork is and cleaning up the clunkiness inside of a move set that you have for yourself and like and I think it's very important that everybody has to continue being at practice, right? Because at the end of the day, we said it once already, you're a professional and you should be able to know your move set, know at least where your 8 moves are. Because reading, I know he's not really talked about much in the business right now, Mike Quackenbush, but the thing he talked about was like know your greatest hits, right? And be able to, pull this out at a dime if you need to, like out of the bag immediately, especially if your opponent doesn't show up on time and you have like a few minutes and you need to get into the ring, you should be able to like be all right, cool. Here's some things that we can do really quick. Where do you want to put these in? We'll figure it out when we get out there.
Yeah.
And I think like if you go out there and you tell someone, oh, I'm gonna hit like this, and this, and you've never trained it before, there's a pretty good shot you're probably going to mess it up when you go out there.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. It's the way I one, more recent example, relevant example was, when Logan Paul debuted at Mania, right? People's expectations were obviously very low, and he exceeded those expectations. I think it's very fair to say. He had a few missteps. I think there was one spot, where he got dumped to the outside, and he hit the ropes a little awkwardly, falling out. There were a bunch of those things throughout it, but we were willing to look past that because, holy shit, this is a YouTuber who's never had a wrestling match before, and he's really good. But now he's signed a contract with them, and he just had his second match, so the expectation is, next time he's going to be a little bit better, and better after that. So I think it's just, you're yeah, when you know that somebody's, still a rookie, and it's their first match or one of their first matches, you're willing to overlook certain, small things like that, for the sake of, just focusing on their potential. But as that potential hopefully becomes realized, you can clean those things up a bit. It just comes from practice.
Yeah, and I think that's like the most important part is that it just comes with practice. Like you got to practice those things to get, to improve. Like I know and it's weird because like I'm not gonna be one that's gonna be critiquing like, but Jake Paul, like the things I loved about watching Paul's match was that he hit a lot of stuff clean, and you could tell like he's been putting in the work. Like he really has been ever since like, and I'm sure he after Mania he just kept training, and then like he signed a contract, and everybody's like, oh, he just signed now, but I'm pretty sure he probably signed that like 4 months ago, and then just started like training really hard. Then they were like, we're gonna debut him at SummerSlam, like re-debut him, I guess. And he came out like a house on fire, and I was like,
Yeah.
hey man, the guy's putting in work, and I can't knock it. Like it was really cool to see. And I know a lot of people who keep talking about it, they're like, well, I haven't got my opportunity yet. I'm like, well, I know people in my training school that are doing that, and I'm like, listen, man, like you've been here once in the last 4 months. Like, where did you think that you were gonna be like, I'm the superstar? Because you can't even bump right, bro.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the one sense, I understand people's frustration, the people who are, quote, doing everything right, and not getting those opportunities, and then to see somebody like, Logan Paul get snatched up. The reason why WWE brought Logan Paul in was because they understood what he could contribute to the company. He's a huge social media star with, millions of followers and a huge audience that he can bring to WWE. And yeah, most indie workers don't have that to offer, but do a little soul searching, do a little reflecting, figure out what you can bring to the table. You know, maybe it's not some massive, army of, fangirls online, but maybe you're, I'll give a little shout out here. To somebody else who's going to be making his debut with us in August, Landon Hale. Um, dude's a doctor of chiropractics as his shoot job. All those, bang ups after a match, get a little tight, take a couple bumps on the shoulders, feeling a little stiff after the match, can come right into the back and stretch you out, right? Beyond the fact that he's a really solid worker in ring, he has something that he can offer to the locker room, something unique. So it's all about finding that niche and owning it.
Yeah, I met Landon in a locker room up in Massachusetts, and super super nice dude. I really liked like just having a quick conversation with him, and then we started following each other, and so him and I like talk back and forth like a lot, and I was like, yeah, it's this is a good dude. And then I saw that he was a chiropractor. I was like, definitely should had him like work on my back or something while I was there. But yeah, super nice dude. I can't wait to like get to cross paths with him again and like just either A, chop it up with him or, chop him. One of
Yeah,
those two.
there you go. Was that the night you worked Caster?
Yeah, that was a night.
That's awesome. I'm very, very happy for him. I'm excited to have him coming on board for the 28th.
Yeah, it was cool when
Yeah.
I watched you put the title, the card out there and then he was on there. I was like, "Oh, shit, I just saw him."
It's been a lot of that, yeah. Um, it's just, people who, some people who are coming in, like, there's people who have like been around Invictus for a while, but have never officially debuted, like you, Ken Powers, who worked ring crew on our first show, um, and now is, uh, finally graduated from Team 3D Academy, so he'll be making his in-ring debut. Yeah, it's got real family reunion vibes to it, this show, so I'm excited about it.
Me too. So we kind of talked about like to hit on the character side of things, in ring work, um, and then like one other aspect, I guess, is like you're always looking for another person that's kind of like what can they contribute to help grow Invictus, right? Because necessarily you want both people to kind of help grow. Um, so aside from just like, I guess, what's one of your pet peeves when you go to like book talent that you would want them to know? Be like, hey, like, don't do these things if you're not here, and do these things if you're like on the show.
Um, well, I'll say leading up to the show, do your due diligence as far as promoting is concerned. I've heard some pretty stupid hot takes before saying, it's the promoter's job to promote. Uh, which, yeah, it is, but like the fans aren't coming to see me, they're coming to see you guys. So, you know, let people know you're going to be there. I think the thing that bothers me the most is, like when, we book people, and this often happens with like the bigger names, and all they do is like, retweet it. Like not even a quote tweet. Like pretend like you want to be here. Like pretend like you're excited, like it's a big deal. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if you treat each match like it's a big deal, the fans will see it as a big deal, you know? Um like elevate the company, like pretend like you care. And so yeah, that's my biggest pet peeve, I think, is just, the workers who just, will phone it in terms of promotion, or even worse, phone it in terms of the match. But usually that's not the case, because it's the workers who often, do it, are the ones who are really good in the ring, and they know they're good in the ring, so they feel like they don't have to do the extra, you know, the extra legwork of doing promos or anything like that. So if you're somebody who's regularly promoting the show, cutting promos, quote tweeting and retweeting, not just retweeting, because that's pressing one button, um, and just really doing your diligence, that does go, uh, that does not go unnoticed.
All right, cool. See this here. There you go. That's how you help out. You just, promote your shit. I
Yeah,
love cutting promos. I think like cutting promos is probably the best part of like leading up to a show, next to like putting on the match. I think cutting promos is the best part because you get to show off like more of who your character is and what your character is gonna do and what he's all about or what they're all about, what she's
yeah,
all about. So I think for me, like when I cut promos, like I always try to find like a unique way of like cutting it so that people understand like my character realizes like what's going on. And I think it's very important that people like take the time to do those things.
yeah. I mean, I have to put over one person in particular when it comes to that, and that would be or two people actually, because they're joined at the hip. Killian and Dust are phenomenal, because I know that every time I book Killian in a match, I'm like waiting, like what kind of just like weird, depraved shit are they going to cook up like for their promo for that match? Like, they're going to dub Garfield? Are they going to do like a Metal Gear Solid gimmick? Like, it's just, I don't know where they get these ideas from, but you know, at that point, like the effort, clearly, you know, it makes a huge difference just as far as you know, getting the fans engaged and getting the fans talking about it.
Yeah, Killian and Dust, they come up with a lot of stuff that's just like off the wall, and I thoroughly enjoy watching all their stuff that they put out because you know we recently had talked with Killian about the movie that they did, right, with Sunny Kiss, and I was like, yo, that's like one of my favorite things, and I got to talk to Dust about it too, and Dust was like, he was laughing about it because he thought, he was like, yeah, and I was like, we were talking about it and stuff, and I was enamored with the twist that came at the end. So if you guys haven't seen it yet, you need to go watch their movie. But
Very good.
it's
It's
very good.
very good. The whole gay president thing that Killian's been doing right now is fucking hilarious.
Yeah. I love the fact that when he won the cup, he was just like,
Eating Chick-fil-A out of the Cassandro cup was A1 humor.
yes.
Yeah.
uh, you know, so
He
I
came
guess
up to me after he won the cup. He came up to me and he was like, you know, you can only book me to win now, otherwise you're homophobic. And I was like,
that's that's Killian. All right, well, like going over, right, so we've kind of hit on a few different high spots and stuff about you know just what you look for whenever you're talking about characters or people who are coming into to your promotion and stuff. But what I want to do is I want to switch this over to the third best segment of the Three Count podcast, and people are trying to figure out what are the first two, right? So right here, Red Dog's Power Rankings, you can find every Sunday on our debate show, or if you're listening to Now Entering the Ring, it's the Three Count Podcast 10 Count Questions. But this segment has what's called the Three Count Podcast Pin, Submit, or DQ. And what's going to happen, I'm going to fire off three names at you. You got to pin one, you got to submit one, and you got to DQ one.
okay.
So what we're going to do first round, names are going to seem kind of familiar, right? So we have Big Trouble Ben Bishop.
Oh,
We have Jay Bougie, and then let's go ahead. Just we'll throw it out there too. Big Game Leroy.
oh man, this is tough. I'm gonna pin Ben because I want that feather in my cap. Uh, um, I'm gonna let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna submit Jay Bougie just to shut his ass up. 'Cause I know he talks a lot of shit. And then I'll DQ Leroy. I'll like, you know, like steal his switch or something. You know, throw it into the crowd and let him run after it and get him counted out or something. You know.
That's super smart.
Yeah.
All right. So let's change this up. So we're going to take this out of the wrestling world. We're going to put this into the comic world. We're going to bring in three people that a lot of people are familiar with. So we're going to take Captain America. We're going to take Iron Man. And we
Oh,
take Spider-Man.
okay. All right. Pin, submit, or DQ. I'm gonna submit Iron Man because I feel like, you know, like outsmarting Tony Stark would be a feat. Would be quite an achievement. Um, I'm gonna DQ Captain America. I'm gonna do the Eddie Guerrero chair spot, but with his shield.
I like it.
Which means I guess I'm pinning Spidey.
All right. I mean, that's something that Bonesaw couldn't do, so that would only make sense.
There you go.
So let's take this out of the comic book world. We're going to take this into the world of cartoons. So you have Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory. We have Eddie from Ed, Ed, and Eddie. And then we've got Blossom from Powerpuff Girls.
Oh boy. Interesting. Eddie, which one's Eddie? Eddie's the
He's the dumb one.
he's the dumb one, right? Okay.
Yeah. Wait, no, Eddie's the slicked hair back one. He's the short
Yeah,
guy.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, because it's Ed and then Double D. Yeah, Double D's got a
Double
hat.
D is
Yeah.
the smart one, and then Ed's the scammer. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it's Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory. I'm gonna submit Dexter. Again, like for the same reason as Tony Stark, I want to like outsmart him, like outmaneuver him, make him, take him down a peg. I'm gonna. I guess I'll pin Eddie, and then I guess I'll DQ. I'll DQ Blossom because like I don't want to hurt her. Like that's yeah. I'll just find something,
I don't know, man.
let her like low blow me or something. And
I was like, chemical X is a dangerous substance. We don't
yeah,
know what else.
not,
I'm hitting her with a steel chair. I don't care what anybody says. I'm hitting Blossom because
I don't know.
hey, she's super strong, man. Like she can
Yeah,
take it.
you're right. I mean, I have booked my share of intergender matches, so equal rights, equal fights. So
But, well, that is it for Pin Submit DQ. But Alex, let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find you.
yes, you can follow Invictus Pro Wrestling on Twitter at Invictus Pro WRE1. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, just Invictus Pro Wrestling. Be sure to check out our upcoming show on August 28th. Let Them Fight Summer Wars. Our main man, Red Dog, will be in action, singles action, making his Invictus debut against Diego El Trabajador, as well as a lot of other great matches featuring some rising stars of independent wrestling. You can get tickets to that on our Eventbrite page. You can find the link to that on any of our social media accounts. If you can't be there in person, be sure to check it out streaming live on IWTV.
And there you have it. He gave you the handles. He told you where you can find the show. You guys can go watch it, or you guys can just be there. Okay. But
that is preferable.
That is definitely preferable. So with that being said, we got to do like everybody's favorite part of wrestling match. We got to take it home because this is now entering 201. And right there with me, CM Alex Accetta from Invictus Pro Wrestling. And I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. But like every good Sherpa, it's never about me because you got to find someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficiently than you can. So that's why Alex is here, because clearly he's doing it better than I am. Anyway, with that being said, tune into the next episode and be there, or you're, subscribing to our YouTube channel, you're following us on all of our social media platforms, which is right below us, or you're buying all of our merch on ProWrestlingTees.com/3 Count Podcast, or you're really just waiting for this episode to end. You're waiting for the outro, and then you're choosing another episode to listen to. Peace. What's going on, 3 Count Nation? I'm Clifford Red Dog Miller with the catchphrase. But what I really want you to do right now, go to twitter.com, right? Go over there, find us at the 3count_pod, give us a follow, give us a like, give us a comment. We want to talk to you guys. Go to IG at the 3count_pod. Give us a like, give us a follow, leave us a comment. We want to interact with you. Go to youtube.com, give us a subscribe, turn the bell on, turn the notifications, leave a comment. We want to talk to you. Go to anchor.fm/the 3count podcast, and in there, you can leave us a message, and we will talk to you. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that we want to talk to you. We want to have fun with you guys, and we love listening to what you guys have to say. Also, one thing I need you to do for me, the 3count podcast also has merchandise. At prowrestlingtees.com/the 3count pod. Please go buy our t-shirts. We love you guys, and we hope you love us too. So show us some support, please.